Good afternoon, golf fans, and welcome along to another FanTeam Golf DFS show. I am joined today by Mr. Shaun himself, Smods DFS on Twitter. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm looking forward to the PGA Championship this week. We're also joined by Tom as well. How are you doing, sir?
Yep, all good. Thank you. Looking forward to exciting week with the Premier League and the PGA Championship. So nice little combo this week.
Yeah, an exciting sporting week for sure. We are here today to take a look at, first glance look at the PGA Championship contest on FanTeam this week. As we've mentioned before, it's golf's second major. All the biggest names in the field this week, gents. We've got 156 golfers here at present. No more withdrawals, thankfully. We've had quite a few withdrawals over the last couple of days. Sanjay M being the latest one, out with COVID, unfortunately. But should be a great week of golf.
Yes, very
Yeah,
much.
definitely.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice to see a new course as well. Obviously not one that we've seen for quite a while. And from memory, I think Tiger won it last time it was played, which doesn't really tell you anything, does it? I mean, peak Tiger, it was like it could have been a pitch and putt or a 7-mile golf course and he'd have still won. So, yeah, it's nice to have a course that has a bit of mystery to it in terms of how it's going to play, I think.
Yeah, no, most definitely. It was this course has been redesigned since Tiger won here in 2007, I believe it was. He had that famous walk-in putt that he done in the playoff. It was, if you've seen that on YouTube, it's absolutely brilliant to watch. But yeah, it's a big old beast this week. It plays as a par 72 for the members of this golf course, but that's been reduced to a par 70 for the professionals this week, and it's playing at 7,556 yards long. They've really put these tee boxes back. The grass around this place is Bermuda. We are going to get some really thick Bermuda rough this week. They've set this up to play like a US Open from what I've seen already on social media and articles that I've read. This looks like it's being set up for a US Open. Tom, I don't know if you've sort of read the same things that I have, but it looks a tough task this week for the golfers.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's surprising for a PGA, isn't it? I don't know if they were trying to make sure that Mickelson doesn't win it 2 years in a row, maybe, because obviously he's not turning up now, is he? But this would have been like the current version of Mickelson. This would be like his idea of hell with just how difficult this is going to be. So it's going to be interesting.
I think you can throw out what we saw last week at the TNT, Byron Nelson, can't you, Shaun? I don't think we're going to get that scoring week this week.
Oh no, I mean last week was just turned out to be a putting contest, didn't it? If your putter got hot and then you made strides up the leaderboard, but here I think you get rewarded more for getting a par than you would near enough, wouldn't you, than rather dropping a shot or so. So yeah, it's going to be a tough week, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, this golf course is like a lot of the holes are dog legs. You've got oak trees all the way down. It's like them tree line fairways that we get everywhere. Thick rough, as I've mentioned. You've got a creek that goes around on most of the holes on this place. And then it's just littered with 100 odd bunkers everywhere. It's a real test this week. The golfers are going to have some fun, and it doesn't get much easier even when you get to the green as well. You've got false runoffs, just big banks on these greens. It's like Augusta National again when you get to the greens with the putting surfaces, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a super challenge. I'm just looking at the 2007 leaderboard for the first time, and it's such a random bunch of players. I mean, obviously they've made sort of wholesale changes to the course since then, haven't they? But like you've got Tiger Woods. One thing to mention: only 3 players are at better than 1 under, and I believe the course is probably harder now than when it was played then. So it's and with the wind blowing this week, it's going to be nuts. But yeah, you've got Woods and Els who are kind of bombers. Woody Austin, Oberholzer, John Senden, Simon Dyson. It's like. I'm looking at that leaderboard and I don't see any patterns whatsoever. So if we think it might play a bit like Augusta, that's at least a little hint of the kind of players you want to look at, because looking at that 2007 leaderboard doesn't help one bit.
Definitely. And the last hole here is going to be really exciting. You're going to get a Grand Slam finish on this, especially if it's tight going into that championship Sunday. It's a par 4, 465 yards long. You have to land the tee shot on the left side of this fairway. If you don't, there's no way you can get to the green. You've got trees in the way. You have to be very specific where you land this ball on this place. And then it don't get easier. Like I say, you've got them runoffs on the front of this green. So if your second shot into that green is short, you're coming back, and good chance that you find one of these greenside bunkers here. And I mean, a 3-putt bogey on this hole might be how the championship's decided this week. So it's an exciting golf course. I'm really looking forward to it. I love these events. I think this is a true test of golf, and this is how golf should be played for me. Gentlemen, Shaun, any sort of key stats that you're looking at to start the week off, like just at a first glance for this place?
Bogey avoidance would be the key one for me.
Yeah, no, agree. I've got that weighted quite heavily within my model already. I've already done the first glance model.
Yeah, I think also I think patience is going to be well rewarded as well, isn't it? Around here, you don't want golfers who can go back to back bogeys, isn't it? They get annoyed with themselves. I mean, like someone like Jon Rahm, isn't it? He can lose it at any stage, can't he?
Definitely, or Tyrrell Hatton. You could definitely see something like that from him. Tom, anything you're looking at specifically early on in the week?
Yeah, I've just done a really quick first model and kind of included quite a lot of stuff. I do think approach is going to be key because of the tiny greens, but then I also think around the greens going to be important because the greens are so small, and with the wind up, you are going to miss a lot of them. So I've got approach and around the green, especially long approaches, weighted heavily. A little bit of driving distance, although I do think to an extent, even though it is a really long course, approach is going to be far more important. So driving distance kind of in there as a tiebreaker. I've then got a little bit of putting just because I think you're going to have a lot of 5 to 10 footers for par, even if you're a good scrambler this week. So I've got a little bit of kind of shorter putting in there. And then also wind, which I keep mentioning. So I listened to something this morning that said we're going to kind of be averaging 20, 25 miles an hour with gusts up to 45 mile an hour all week. Well, if that's the case and you've got tiny greens, good luck. We're talking the kind of event where if us guys turned up, we'd never finish because there would be some shots you can't hold on the green without spin and things. So yeah, I've actually weighted wind in here and play in the wind, which I don't think I've ever actually done before. So it'd be interesting to see if that's analysis by paralysis or however you say it. And I've gone too deep into the stats maybe, but yeah, I've got wind in there for now.
That's a new one on me. I haven't added that into my model. So strokes gained with the wind, I might start looking at towards the end of the week. Again, my early model at the minute, I just built a quick one as well. I kind of went off with my Wells Fargo build, to be fair. I thought that would suit this place well. I still do. I think that's the kind of scoring conditions we're going to get. So strokes gained off the tee, I'm looking at good drive, strokes gained on approach. Proximity over 200 plus yards, strokes gained around the green, strokes gained putting, bogey avoidance, as Shaun mentioned. And I'm looking at putts within 5 to 10 foot range. Something I listened to a Pat Mayo podcast the other day, and it's just something that stood out within that podcast. Go and listen to it. It's a very, very good podcast. And yeah, well worth a listen. And I think well worth chucking in the model this week. The players that my model threw out are just the top players in the world. So I kind of like the early looks at it. But the FanTeam contest this week is a PGA Championship Monster. The Monster is back. It's a €20 entry for a €20,000 prize pool within that. Obviously, it runs from the 19th to the 22nd of May. Fantastic contest. So get them entries in early. We're all very excited for it. It's going to be a great week of golf. But let's take a look at page one quickly. The players run down. So world number one, Scotty Scheffler at the top there. Seems to me as I wouldn't say he's fallen out of form. I mean, what he done at the Masters was brilliant, but he seems to just come back to the pack a little bit. And I don't know if I'm going back there this week. Tom, any interest in Scotty Scheffler early on in the week?
Yeah, I think so. He is obviously very highly priced, although pricing across kind of fantasy sites tends to be a bit softer in the majors just because you've got so many top players to fit into the pricing. So he, on my initial model, is number 2. The only stat overall that he isn't kind of top 20 to 30 in is some of the shorter putting, but his putting has been so good this year, and there's a lot of talk about how much effort he puts into it that I think those stats are maybe a bit misleading. If his putter's still hot, everything else is just top draw. So I'd struggle to get away from him, to be honest.
Let's move down to the next player. So it's world number 2, Jon Rahm. Shaun, you've already mentioned about his temperament. Did win in Mexico, though. Can he get the job done here? He's losing a lot of strokes with the putter and around the green. That's what worries me at the minute with Jon Rahm.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the talent, isn't he, to win any tournament he tees it up in. So you've got to, factor him in. But yeah, I think I'd most be fading. We'll go very light on him. I'd rather play Scheffler or my favourite, Justin Thomas. So yeah.
We'll get on to Justin Thomas in the world number 8. I mean, he's desperate for a win. I'm struggling to remember now the last time he's actually won on the tour. It's been a couple of years, but Tom he's number 2 within my model this week. Is he high in yours?
Yeah, he came out number 1 in mine. Again, he's got everything, hasn't he? He's got the distance, he's got the around the green, he's got the approach. He's a great wind player. The only question, in fact, the longer irons as well, I've got him 9th and 13th in the field across the 2 long iron ranges. Yeah. The only question mark, as always with Justin Thomas, is the putter. He's not a bad putter. He's probably an average putter, fair to say, but he's very up and down. So one week he's the worst putter on tour. The next he gains 4 strokes. And if he gains 4 strokes putting, he wins this going away. So, yeah, you're taking a little bit of a gamble on which version of Justin Thomas turns up. But other than the putting, I don't see a weakness at all. So, yeah, he's validly right at the top of the model.
Colin Morikawa, next player, price, the world number 3. Been hot and cold recently, but finished the Masters strong, didn't he, for a tied 5th. So there's that. Shaun, any interest in Morikawa this week?
Yes, he's got a pretty good record, hasn't he, in the PGA Championship? I mean, was he 8th last year, and he won it in 2020. So yeah, definitely plenty of interest there, and you get good salary savings, don't you? If you play him instead of maybe Scheffler, I mean, you're saving $2 million. So yeah, definitely some interest there. Yeah.
Now my favourite player of all, Mr. I only play 3 rounds half the time, Mr. Rory McIlroy. So strong, wasn't he, Tom, at the end of the Masters? He had me believing again that he could win another major for the first time since 2014. This was the last major he actually won, I believe, the PGA Championship. So can you back him? Can you trust him to play 4 rounds at this place? Is he patient enough? I think you've got to be very patient this week again. Is he patient enough to get it done?
Not for me. Certainly I wouldn't back him in like the outright betting market. I just don't think I don't think he's ever good value at those short numbers, because it's hard to call a player with Rory's caliber inconsistent, but for one of the top players, he is inconsistent in that, as you say, he plays himself out of tournaments so early a lot of the time that you're kind of dead in the water straight away. And at something like 10, 12, 14 to 1, it's not good enough. He's a difficult one, isn't he? Because if he's on his game, he can win any tournament in the world any week. But I have absolutely no feeling on whether he's going to be on his game come Thursday morning or not. Yeah. And I don't know anyone can say that they have a firm grasp on that.
No, agreed. Let's move down to the next player. It's Mr. Victor Hovland, Mr. Consistent with the irons. Come 9th, Shaun, at the Players' Championship in difficult conditions, windy conditions. Can we see him winning this? Can we see him winning a major here this week? I could see it. I like what I've seen from Victor, and I like I like the 9th place finish at the Players' Championship in really difficult conditions. Any interest there for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's very solid and consistent, isn't he? Week in, week out. He rarely has a bad tournament, does he? So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially if he's a good win player. So yeah, definitely.
I think there's an interesting discussion point, isn't there, with Hovland and Morikawa. If I look at my model with like this first page of players, Morikawa and Hovland have a big red dot on it when you look at strokes gained around the green. So if you don't think scrambling this week is going to be that important, then they're almost number 1 and 2 in your model. If you think around the green is going to be important, it shoots them down a mile. So it's almost like, which version of the course do you think we're going to play? And then you either take them together or you don't take them at all, is kind of the stance that I'm seeing there.
Agreed. Let's move down to Mr. Cameron Smith then. Obviously won the Players' Championship in really difficult conditions, come third at the Masters, a heartbreaking finish for him, really. Had no right attacking that flag on 12 and he went for it. Fell into the trap like many others have before at that hole. Then he missed a cut at the RBC Heritage, which I think was understandable. I think you can kind of throw that out the window after what happened at the Masters. Tom, he is clutch at putting from 5 foot to 10 foot in that range. If he's in that range, he makes the putt most of the time. Do you have any interest this week going back to Smith? And can he get over that Masters heartbreak? That's the question, isn't it?
I do, yeah. And to be fair to him, at the RBC Heritage, yes, he missed the cut, but I'm just looking at it now. 3 strokes lost around the green, 1 stroke lost putting. Well, it was the first time he'd lost strokes around the green in 10 months. You have to go right back to the Travellers in June 2021. So he actually played okay at the Heritage. He just had, obviously, a couple of duff chips and putts by the look of that. But yeah, if you look at Cam Smith overall, again, he's one where there isn't an obvious weakness. He's not the longest driver, but he has added length in the last year. So yeah, if the wind's going to blow and around the green and putting is going to matter, then I don't really see how you get away from him.
No, agreed. Let's move on to the next player. It's Mr. Dustin Johnson. Shaun seems to be struggling with his driver. I've mentioned this on the podcast with Nick and Mark that I do. Struggling with the driver at the minute. 59th at the Byron Nelson last week. I don't think that's good enough, really, for a player of his caliber and the scoring conditions that we saw. Missed the cut of the Heritage, and then obviously the 12th at the Masters there. But I think I'm going to struggle to get to him at this price range this week. But again, it's very early in the week. I will look at things a bit differently. He's not ranking out particularly well in my model as of yet. Any interest for you, Shaun?
Yeah, I mean, talent-wise, I mean, it's very hard to get off. But yeah, I mean, like you say, he's struggling with his driving. He hasn't won for a while, has he? And he has got a pretty good history for the PGA Championship, isn't it, with a couple of second places. So yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit too highly priced for me.
I'll be back with you in 1 minute, guys. We carry on.
Yeah, all good. So we'll move on to the next player. It's Mr. Jordan Spieth, and perhaps the hottest player on tour at the minute, Shaun. Obviously won at the RBC Heritage, come second at the Byron Nelson last week. What I struggle with is that putting, and in particular that putting at 5 to 10 foot range. And he missed some at the Byron Nelson last week, and he missed a few at the RBC Heritage and got away with it. But everything else with him is just standing out off the tee, around the green, on approach. He's just excellent at the minute. But can we get back there again? I think I prefer him over DJ.
Yeah, definitely prefer him over DJ. Do you think he's coming back to like when he was world number 1 form?
For me, no. I think when he was up there at world number 1 and winning the majors back to back, and I think he was a very, very good putter then. And until I see that, no, he's not back. And I still don't like what he's doing with the swing. But at the minute, the last couple of weeks, he's been getting it done. So I prefer him over DJ this week at the early start of this, but I think he's going to be popular for what he's done over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, recency bias and all that with fantasy players, that must probably flock to him anyway because he's in good form, and people like to pick good players in good form and stuff. So yeah, I think if you do play him, I think you're going to have to take a little bit higher ownership with him, aren't you? You're not going to get him at a relatively low ownership, are you? So, but yeah, I mean, he's in sparkling form, so yeah, definitely have some interest.
Who are we talking?
Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, another one that's difficult to get away from, I think. The only reason I could give you is he's not that great on approach when it's really long irons. I've got him ranking 94th and 109th, but other than that, plus the form, plus the focus on short game, another one that I think is going to be very highly owned, but you might just have to eat the chalk on Spieth.
Yep, great. Sometimes the chalk can be good chalk. You have to eat it at some point. Next player in the field here is Xander Schauffele, coming off a 5th at the Byron Nelson. Obviously missed the cut of the Masters. Been a bit inconsistent this year. Not what I'm used to seeing from Xander Schauffele. Normally makes a lot of cuts. It's normally miss a cut. This is what his form's like at the minute. Miss a cut, do quite well at the next tournament, miss a cut. So if we're going by that metric, he's going to miss the cut this week. But I just also, he's one of these players. I don't think he can win if the event is if there's a cut within the event. All the events that he's won recently are non-cut events, like the Olympics and things like that. Tom, any interest in Xander Schauffele?
No, I don't think so. I think the problem with Schauffele at the moment, where he's priced, and obviously he's kind of in the middle of loads of great players. I mean, the fact that Cantley, for example, is 0.4 million below him. If you say to me, what do you think I'll get out of Cantley versus Schauffele? I don't see how anyone would sort of back Schauffele to be better. I just think he's a bit like Rory. When you look at the players around him, yes, the talent's there, but you're gambling, aren't you? You're really gambling on performance at the moment.
And to be fair, at the Byron Nelson, he made the cut on the number, didn't he? On the Friday, and then he comes storming through the field towards on the Saturday and the Sunday, like a lot of players did. To be fair, there, but I'm going to find it difficult getting to him, I think, this week.
Yeah, it sums up golf DFS, doesn't it? If he'd missed the last putt, so he missed the cut by 1, we'd just be sat here saying, absolutely no way I'm playing Xander, not even considering him. But because of what he then got to do for 2 days, we're in two minds. So it's he's a tricky one, but not for me.
Now we're going to move to the number 1 player within my model. I know it's an early look, so I'm not going off of it fully as of yet, but he is the number 1 player in my model at the minute. It's Patrick Cantley, coming off a 2nd at the RBC Heritage. That was the last time we see him. Obviously lost the playoff with a really weird shot into the wind, an iron into the wind at 180 yards, which found the bunker. Come 39th for the Masters. Before that, obviously missed the cut of the Players' Championship, but I think you can kind of throw that event out the window with what happened there with the wind and things like that. Started the season off well. What worries me with Cantley is he started the season very well, and all of those events were, let's say, weaker fields, especially like Pebble Beach, and he come 4th at Pebble Beach, but he just looked disinterested. Didn't really. I worried that he can't close out and win them events with the weaker fields, and I worry why he's ranking number 1 within my model because of that reason. For that reason, that he's not able to sort of finish off the event and win. Shaun, are you going to have any interest in Cantley?
Yeah, the price is very appealing, isn't it? I mean, he's the lowest of the top 10 guys that and like I say, talent wise, they're all they can all win any week. But he doesn't win that often, does he? That's the only worrying bit for me. He always flatters. There's a CV, he has good rounds and stuff, and he's always there or thereabouts, but he doesn't seem to win too often. So, but at his price point, it's pretty decent. And the other question would be his ownership. If you feel that he's going to be too highly owned, then I would come underweight. But if you think he's going to be low owned, then I would go well overweight. So yeah, but he's definitely some interest.
Next player in the field who's found a bit of form, come back from injury well, Hideki Matsuyama. Obviously third at the Byron Nelson, 14th at the Masters where he was defending, which I think that's quite impressive because there's a lot of build up with the Masters, the Champions Dinner and there's a lot of pressure on him before that. And obviously the 14th finish there, you'd like to see. I think I'm going to go back here again this week, Tom, to Hideki. I like what I've been seeing.
Interesting. Yeah. I am a little bit uncertain on him. I didn't realize he played that well at the Byron Nelson. I didn't even notice him sneak up there. 9 shots on approach. That's fairly impressive. Okay, pause for thought. The only challenge with Hideki would be that kind of shorter putting. I'm now obsessed with these short putting stats.
Yeah, so am I.
He's dreadful between 0 and 15 feet, according to the stats. So that would be my worry. But then he is very good around the green, so maybe he's knocking it closer than means that he doesn't have to make as many of those putts. So yeah, maybe he's the same price as Cantley, and I'd certainly prefer Cantley, I think.
Yeah. Next player in the field is Brooks Koepka. Obviously, a withdrawal last week, which was weird. Missed the cut at the Masters and the 12th at the Valspar. Again, very inconsistent from Brooks this year. It's a miscut, then it's a third place finish, a miscut, then it's a top 20, a miscut, another top 20, and then a miscut again. But it's Brooks in a major, isn't it? This is the thing. And it's just, I am worried though with what happened last week. That was a late withdrawal, and I'm very worried that there may be an injury here. Shaun, any interest?
I mean, PGA Championship history, you have to play him, don't you? I mean, his record is amazing, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I don't know why he withdrew last week, mate. Like you say, he must have had an injury or something. But he was struggling with his knee, wasn't he, a while back? So I don't know. But yeah, it's worrying that he withdrew last week. So yeah,
definitely a worry there. Tom, you're obsessed with this short putting. So next player, Mr. Will Zalatorius, missed the cut last week by 1. Obviously, he finished at 4 under. The cut was 5 under. Comes 6th at the Masters. Again, seems to love Augusta National. Has been playing pretty well this year. I think he's going to be popular again, highly owned for good reason. But it's that short putting that worries the hell out of me. And I think I would struggle to get there this week on him at this price range. I don't know about you.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. The short putting, I mean, there's a red box around every number on the short putting. The around the green game isn't brilliant either. He had a particularly bad week at the Byron Nelson with the putter over those 2 rounds. He was just loading up, but I think it was about minus 4.2 strokes putting. Hasn't been positive putting in weighted rounds since October. So you're talking 7 months since he's putted well. So that would worry me a little bit. The flip side for Zalatorius, I mean, his irons are probably arguably the best in the field. So if he's hitting all the greens with laser-like approach shots, he doesn't need to be making all the putts because everyone else is missing the greens. So, it's a tricky one. I can't see this being his victory. He could go well if his irons are on, but yeah, a bit too shaky over the short ones for my liking here.
Agreed. Next player is Mr. Sam Burns. Again, another player who missed the cut, 4 under last week. Highly owned, burned a lot of people, including myself. Weird season for him. 3 missed cuts, then the 9th, 26th. First, obviously, won the Valspar, and then 2 missed cuts at the Masters and the Byron Nelson. I can excuse the miscut at the Masters because anyone can miss a cut there. It's a hard place to go and play. But the Byron Nelson, after the scoring we saw, I would find it hard to excuse the miscut there. And Shaun, is there any interest? You're going to go back to Sam Burns here this week?
No, not for me. Definitely not for me.
I mean, he's ninth in my model this week. It's just.
Can my win stats make a debut here?
Yeah, go for it.
So last 75 rounds in calm conditions, he is 10th in the field. In moderate conditions, so kind of breezy, he's 58th. In windy AF conditions, although it is a short, small sample, 106th. So in theory, not a great wind player, but it is only a theory. But it was the first player who really, well, him and Luke List at the top end stuck out as players who perform better when it's less windy.
Well, speaking of wind, you've led us into the next player very nicely. I know this player is excellent in the wind, and he's won the Open Championship. It's Mr. Shane Lowry. It's a matter of time before he wins on the PGA Tour, surely. Third at the Heritage, there, third at the Masters. He's been brilliant this year. Second at the Honda, 13th at the Players, 12th at the Valspar. There's not much not to like here, is there, Tom? I think I'm going back to Lowry again this week.
Yeah, very difficult to get away from him. I think, as you say, certainly used to the wind, no issues there. He has gone to a completely other level this year, hasn't he? 5 PGA Tour events, no worse than 13th, including a couple of courses that shouldn't really suit him. So, yeah, there's not much to take you away from Lowry, I don't think. He can be a bit kind of up and down with his putter, but it's good enough when you look at everything else across the board. I think, yeah, he's very good value.
Definitely. And the last player on page 1, and then we're going to pick a couple of underdogs that we like, is Mr. Daniel Berger. Played quite well this season already. There's a 4th at the Honda there, 13th at the Players, 50th at the Masters, and 21st at the RBC Heritage in recent weeks. Doesn't putt very well in that short range, I've noticed, but he does rank 12th within my model this week overall. Shaun, is there any interest there for you in Daniel Berger?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like you say, he's struggled with his putting, so no. I think there's much better options than him at that price anyway. So no, I don't think I would play him. I mean, Larry's only a tad bit more expensive, isn't he? And he's playing much better, and he's a good wind player. So yeah, no, I'd rather pay a little bit extra for Lowry than play Berger.
Tom, any interest in Daniel Berger before we move on to a couple of the underdogs we like?
Yeah, surprising actually. He's not someone that I play all that often, but looking at him here, so great with the long irons, 7th and 25th there. Just on approach, generally 5th and 13th if I shorten the sample. So fantastic with the irons. Around the green is good, not great, but very good. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was Scheffler, but I'm not sure. But there was an interview the other day where, I think it was Spieth. They asked him, of all the players on tour, who's around the green game is the most underrated? And without a hesitation, they said Daniel Berger. So that kind of ups his around the green for me a little bit. And according to the numbers, he's sort of an average short putter, and he is a fantastic wind player, apparently. So, so yeah, surprised how good he looks, actually. He's 13th in my model. So, yeah, he's up there.
Yes, so Tom does keep mentioning the win there, so do keep an eye on it. It's meant to get up this week, so do keep an eye on that. Gentlemen, Tom, I'll start with you. Any sort of stand out with the underdogs that you like?
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to have to go purely off my model because I've not kind of dug in as yet. So the first one that pops up, which seems a little surprising, 14.4 million, Cameron Tringale is 11th in my model. If I just run across his stats, great on approach, which is fair enough. Very good around the green. Doesn't have great driving distance. He's kind of tour average there. Very, very good in the wind and pretty good with the putter. So I'm just going to zoom into his short-term form. So he's kind of milling about, 12th at the Heritage, 33rd in Mexico, but gaining on approach every single week. So yeah, Tringale is the first one that jumps out. I'll just give you a couple more. Gary Woodland is one that jumped out in terms of my new win stat. So he's 77th on tour in calm conditions, 41st and 26th if you shrink it down to windy conditions. Great with the long irons, long hitter, good around the greens, and great on approach generally, and has been playing very well this year since he came back from injury. He's kind of pretty much gone from strength to strength. Missed a cut last time out, but before that he'd been kind of fire with the irons. Luke List is the next one on the list, but I just can't go there. So, oh God, and then Keegan Bravo is the next one. Let me find the first real cheap one. Is Mito Pereira is 23rd in the model at 13.6. So that's the first kind of real cheapie. Great on approach, decent driving distance, okay around the green, not bad in the wind, and very good at short putting. So as a kind of steady Eddie, Mito's maybe an option, and I believe he played pretty well. Yeah, 17th at the Byron Nelson, gained off the tee on approach and around the green. Yeah, and has made, 7 of his last 8 cuts this year. So, yeah, Mito potentially is my real cheapie for you.
Shaun, any standout underdogs for you?
I would say Harry Higgs, he's really cheap, 13,200,000. What was he, 4th last year? So I think he's about as low down as I would willing to go at 13.2. But yeah, Tom said most of the other ones I like. Another one I could add, he's not really too cheap. Tony Finau, he's due, isn't he?
Been striking the ball well.
Been due for about 12 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, so no, but he's cheap enough. But others, Justin Rose could be a bit cheap. I mean, he hasn't been playing too well, has he? I mean, he figured for a while in the was it in the Masters? He was up there for a bit, was it?
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah. But I think this week you're going to need experience. How about Tiger Woods this week? I mean, it's him, wasn't it? Someone who can plod round in pars, not make too many mistakes.
I worry with the length on this place. And if he goes wayward into this thick rough, I do worry with his knees and his legs. And it's not a place you can go. Like Augusta, you can go wayward on, and all you're really going to find is pine straw. And we know he's absolutely lethal when he comes out of the pine straw. Here, you're going to find really thick rough, and I worry for him this week. Again, I think it's an achievement if he just makes the cut. If he makes the cut, and again, another box ticked off on the road to recovery for Tiger Woods for me.
Do you think he has more chance this week than at the Masters, or not? No.
I think he had more chance at the Masters.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm one of these people who now only thinks he can win on 2 golf courses, and Augusta's one, and St Andrews is the other one. So yeah, he will pique my interest at the Open, especially if we do see him this week, and hopefully we see him at the US Open as well. If we see him for the next couple of majors, then he will pique my interest at the Open for sure. Just a quick couple of underdogs I like. Cameron Champ, playing really well at the minute. Absolute bomber off the tee. Again, the only worry with him is if he goes wayward, but he's clutch within that 5 to 10 foot putt range. He's 6th over the last 50 rounds in this field in that range. And Seabez is the other one. He ranks 18th within my model this week. Just everything across the board there you like to see. It's all green. Stand out with a putt in 9th in this field over the last 50 rounds, strokes gained putting. So, someone that I like. Again, regular cut maker. But I think we'll leave it there, gentlemen, as a first glance look. Thank you for joining me today. I will be back with Nick and Mark tomorrow as we do our team builds, and we'll run through the players in depth a little bit more. Shaun, where can we find your lovely self?
On Twitter and in the FanTeam Discord. Twitter, SMODFS, and in FanTeam Discord. So, yeah, come say hello. And Tom, we can, obviously, me and you can find us on the We Live Golf pod.
Yeah, we're now on the We Live Golf pod. I'm it sounds like it's going to be a quiet week in the world of live, so I'm not sure we'll have much to pod about this week. But yeah, episode 1 of that is underway and out there on all the platforms. We're taking an interest in live purely from a golfing standpoint. We're quite excited to see a disruptor in the golf space and a different kind of golf format. So yeah, we're keeping a close eye on that one. I can then be found via the FanTeam Golf Twitter, via mine, which I think is TJ Mitchum 1983, and obviously on the FanTeam Discord as well.
Yeah, I remember this week's Monster Contest is now open. It's a €20 buy-in for a €20,000 prize pool. Just head over to fanteam.com and you can enter the golf contest there through the golf lobby. Thank you for joining us as ever, and give us a like and a subscribe. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.